Smart 24, driving business.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Welcome to Business Today in January 2023. It's Monday, the second day of the year and the second day of the month of January. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Wins and Akauchi on sign language, and we're coming to you live from plot 42 Nile Avenue. Now, kicking it off this particular day, we start with the IMF projects, where the IMF has projected economic hardships in the year 2023. Now, the International Monetary Fund has warned global economies to prepare for more economic hardships in the year 2023, worse than last year due to slow economic activities in the United States, Europe, and China. Here, legislators have cautioned government on its excessive expenditure. Samla Hanifa reports.
COVID-19, Russia-Ukraine war, inflation are one of the issues slowing down productivity in major economies like the United States, Europe, and China. According to Kristalina Georgieva, head of the IMF, a third of the world will experience an economic recession this year, and nations should prepare for much harder times ahead.
We have calculated that about 1/3 equivalent of the world economy would have at least 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth this year, next year, and that the total amount that would be wiped out by the slowdown of the world economy is going to be, between now and 2026, $4 trillion. This is the size of Germany GDP gone. And when we look at the picture, we are asking what are the drivers and, of course, what can be done. What are the drivers? They are the forces of disruption I started with, the impact of COVID on supply chains, the senseless war that is causing a push of prices, especially energy and food prices, and major disruptions as a result in how economies function.
On the other hand, lawmakers have warned the government against spending excessively on items that do not benefit the nation during times like these, when international organizations issue warnings about impending economic calamities.
So, for example, here in Uganda, they gave us a document. We are in a budgeting cycle, and we saw the document the Minister of Finance brought of almost 50 trillion. But unless if the government now starts making clear priorities, still we shall get a problem, because now that our bosses, we are perpetual borrowers from IMF and all those international monetary companies and the organizations. So now if they have warned that they have sensed a danger ahead, so it's high time that we, the government, we also see how we can take appropriate steps to mitigate the challenges which are yet to focus. If China and America said there is a recession soon, then Uganda, we need to sit down and strategize.
The MPs contend that productivity must take precedence now in order to reduce the need for imported items and boost exports, which will raise the nation's foreign exchange revenues.
As Uganda, we are largely a consumptive country. We only import and import. Very little goes out. So we get a little and we consume a lot. And most of the things we consume are coming from outside. So it's a very serious situation if we don't have anything much to export. Two, the warning is based on a global trend. Look at the Asian countries. Look at Europe. Europe, I think their focus has now shifted to arms. The focus on the arms race and whatever, who produce the best arms, weapon, which Uganda cannot do. We can't compete with America, for that matter, to export arms to fight in the Ukraine. And from the beginning, we thought it was the Ukrainian and the Russian factor, but as things have turned out, it is a global phenomenon. Everybody is affected. So unless countries come together and say, hey guys, can we sit together and see how do we solve this thing? It's no longer Ukraine, it's no longer Russia, but it's a global thing.
In order to brace for economic problems this year, as the IMF has cautioned, the legislators have also advised Ugandans to review their daily expenses.
So what I'm telling Ugandans, they need now to also get priorities. We are having children going back to school this end of this month and the next month. So we need now to sit as a family, as an individual, as a Ugandan. Because once a Ugandan has no money, because Uganda gets money from its citizens, once the citizens have no money, it is automatically the country will have no money. So now that the IMF has warned, then it should trickle down to an individual, to a citizen, to see how also can make right choices and right priorities.
The household income, at the end of the day, you have to buy soap, you have to buy salt, you have to buy sugar. I think people have to be prudent in the way they utilize their daily income. We just have to have some savings if possible, but generally to watch how we spend our money on a daily basis.
However, given that many have increased output over the past few months and there is anticipation that exports will improve, some lawmakers are confident that Uganda may not be as significantly impacted by the global economic slowdown.
But according to me, it may not be as worse as 2022 because we can see people have gone back into production. The economy, like in the view of Africa and Uganda, I think when we continue like this, we have rains, we have white. I think will not be as it will not be as it was in 2022. Globally, yes, it may be a worst economy, but for Uganda, I'm optimistic.
With COVID-19 on the rise in China and US, the Ukraine war in Europe that is not set to end, an economic recession will eventually affect the entire world. Samla Hanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now besides that, as we move forward to giving you more of Business Today, we give you coming in from the Uganda Transport Makeover. As Kampala pushes for transportation makeover where motorcycles and buses are envisioned as electric utilities, Africa's quest for sustainable development influenced by the various long-term strategic plans of the United Nations is transforming Uganda's growth trajectory. However, there is still disputes regarding
the sector. A significant portion of the services industry become electric, and a phase out of fuel-powered motorcycles. Wanda traces problems for the entrenched fossil-reliant businesses and opportunities of the pending oil production, as a similar message was previously echoed by legislators. As 2023 takes shape, Uganda's position on e-mobility has gained strength.
Kampala they have their transport plan, and I believe the transport plan they have started slowly by sensitizing the border industry, the taxi and what have you. We believe there is also a plan to bring the public transport, to organize the public transport in Kampala.
Unsurprisingly, there is a disagreement among participants and institutions in the transportation sector, which has so far replaced buses and motorbikes, while the taxi business watches from the sidelines with trepidation.
The kilometers over kilometers meka nze ndi musajja wa kilometers 205 kati no imvasolo gitwala n'enkomi yawo.
I ride about 250 kilometers. Can the charge sustain me for that long? What kind of electricity is it? Yet even the power we use at home is less effective. So how will it serve the motorbikes? From my perspective, I'm not sure. It may not work out now, maybe in the future.
Walimu akakwakulizo president ke yateekawo nti buses zibereza amafuta zibereza amasanyalaze.
There is a clause that the president instituted that the buses have to be electric and made in Uganda, at Kira Motors. There is no importing. That's why I said there is a gap between the government's vision and the economic stance of the people. Because if you look at the electric bus, it goes for not less than 1 billion Uganda shillings.
Plans to switch motorbikes from gas to electricity at a free cost are expanding, but concerns about the efficiency of the energy industry persist. To make matters worse, important advances have mostly relied on overseas research and development, such as the China's TELG, which recently teamed with the International University of East Africa with funding from the UN Environment Programme.
So electricity is at the heart of both production and consumption in households, in businesses, and everywhere. And so it comes out as a very, very sensitive sector like water, like security, that nobody wants to have margins of error in its management and strategy. People may not be able to afford it at a personal level, but they will have to access it. As you said, you want to go to a salon. Now, I may not have electricity in my own home, but certainly I want to find it at the salon. I want to find the mobile money agent where I'm going to transact money as a charged phone. So in one way or another, everybody will interact with electricity. So it becomes a very, very sensitive sector.
Now, the killer motors, we also heard about the pronouncement by the president. The killer motors, if they manufactured enough buses, they are the ones going to operate in Kampala.
Exactly how inclusive the development is for the conventional operators that have controlled the transport sector for the most of this country's history will determine how the energy transition and mainstreaming the transport business on electric mobility will be conceived. Rona Nahabwe, Ivan Tibenkana, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And right now, let's look at investing in 2023. To increase local, foreign, direct and domestic direct investments, more bankable projects in all industries need to be examined. This aims to strengthen and expand on these accomplishments as Uganda solves the stated challenges and makes even greater contributions to Uganda's development. This is done in light of Uganda's Vision 2040, as well as the priorities, objectives and programs outlined in the National Development Plan 3, which aims to create a globally competitive, business and investment-friendly Uganda. We have more in this report.
The fiscal year 2020-2023 is a recovery period with different government efforts to allow citizens to invest and acquire more money. More Ugandans are being included in the money economy, which will help the government reach its 5.3% economic growth target. The primary areas for investment in 2023 are agro-industrialization, mineral development, tourism, the private sector, manufacturing, agriculture, and others.
We've been able to maintain the momentum for growth. The economy has continued to expand, but at a rate which is lower than what we had projected. That's why we've downgraded our growth from 6% to 5.3% this financial year. We expect that by the end of the financial year, in June 2023, the Ugandan economy would have expanded by 5.3%.
Investing in the manufacturing, education, health, and food processing sectors is advised going ahead this year. This offers a logical, rationalized formal framework for a well-coordinated, successful, efficient, and harmonious applicant of the economy. This will change Uganda from a largely peasant and low-income country to a competitive upper-middle-income country.
Moving services, food sector, transport, areas of trade, areas of low-income housing, Mzigo, and people will eventually have to sleep somewhere. As people get poorer, they will move out of high income to low income or middle income. So meaning the sediment is moving downwards. So you want to be found there rather than again pitch up, where you might have some years before or months before anybody gets into your house. You want to get into other services. Education services are beginning to pick up. They were hit by COVID, but still some commitment by parents to educate their children. Medical services, as we say, transport services, financial services. So the service sector still has a possibility. But even there, you want to leverage technology. If you can do deliveries online, sales online, those would be good things. Because as costs rise amidst slowed demand for your product, the only thing you have to manage is the cost.
Uganda will advance to an upper middle income category by 2032, reaching its target of $9,500 in 2040, and achieving first world economic status in the following 50 years, according to Uganda Investment Authority. This will improve value addition in important growth possibilities, support the private sector's ability to generate jobs, consolidate and raise the stock and caliber of production, and boost the state's role in directing and facilitating development. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's look at the nuclear power generation 2030. The construction of a $9 billion power facility in Uganda is proceeding as planned. Dr. Ruth Nankabira, the Minister for Energy and Mineral Development, has reassured the nation that the atomic energy is needed for peace and that the staff has already been sent to South Africa for more training. Samuel Kirimunda compiled this report.
The nuclear power plant would be a part of Uganda's energy mix, according to Dr. Ruth Nankabira, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. She made this announcement to the media during a press conference at the Uganda Media Center.
But just to let you know that we are moving very well. Uganda has been assessed by the International Atomic Agency. The team has been here like more than 4 times. We are training our staff. There is a staff that has gone to South Africa 3 days ago to be trained further. We have potential. So Atoms for Peace is a program that we have. We are not letting go. Nuclear power is very, very clean, and we have seen many more countries using it. So we are moving on very well. We are even moving on with geothermal. For nuclear, we have identified sites. Even for geothermal, we have identified sites.
Noah Del Gracious, the Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda Atomic Energy Council, outlined some of the challenges of atomic energy that should be embraced. It is employed in a variety of industries, including agriculture to produce high yields, education and research, oil and gas, among others, and these are just a few.
To inadequate human resources who are competent. We are still few, but the government is doing a great deal in developing human capacity in this area. Many Ugandans have gone for training at the bachelor's level, advanced level in the nuclear field, in radiation protection, nuclear security, nuclear safety. So this challenge is being handled, and I'm sure as we progress, we shall have enough people who are able to handle the industry. The challenge also is related to equipment. As a regulator, we need various equipment to do a number of tests, both the operators of nuclear techniques or nuclear technology and other applications, and also to advise other entities on issues to do with products that may have radioactive contamination. So those are some of the challenges. Then, of course, the infrastructure, because to get electricity from nuclear power, you need huge infrastructure. which costs in billions. Of course, those developing nuclear energy for electric generation will tell you the amount of money that is required if you are to produce electricity.
Also discusses a few obstacles that could prevent nuclear power plant construction from beginning by 2030, including lack of suitable infrastructure and human resource development.
Adequate human resource who are competent. We are still few, but the government is doing a great deal in developing human capacity in this area. Many Ugandans have gone for training at the bachelor's level, advanced level in the nuclear field, in radiation protection, nuclear security, nuclear safety. So this challenge is being handled, and I'm sure as we progress, we shall have enough people who are able to handle the industry. The challenge also is related to equipment. As a regulator, we need various equipment to do a number of tests in order to make scientific regulatory decisions to guide both the operators of nuclear techniques or nuclear technology and other applications, and also to advise other entities on issues to do with products that may have radioactive contamination.
Smart 24 TV spoke with a group of doctors regarding nuclear energy sensitization trainings and the purpose of atomic energy.
Atomic energy is doing a very great job to all the facilities that they are supervising, in that we have trainings. This is my second time to come for training, and every time I came here, I am empowered with knowledge. And such knowledge has helped us to go and also train the workers in our imaging centers.
The Atomic Energy Council is established by Act of 2008, and provisions are made for the advancement and administration of nuclear power as well as radiation protection. In addition, energy preparedness and response, the Act addresses radioactive waste disposal. Andrew Barije, Samuel Chirimunde, Smart 24, Business Today.
And now let's look at the tragic New Year's Eve, where at the start of the new year was marked by both highs and lows. 9 people lost their lives in a stampede at one of their neighborhood hangouts, which was forced the Uganda Police Force and the services sector to realign and come up with new ways of operating. We have more in this detail.
In the stampede that occurred during the New Year's Eve celebrations, 10 individuals have been officially confirmed dead, but dozens of families are still grieving the loss of their loved ones. Some of the organizers are currently being held by police while they continue their investigations, according to the authorities.
The tragic incident of a stampede where 10 Ugandans, including children, died. We so far arrested the promoter of that New Year concert, that is the promoter of Abitex, that is Abe Msinguzi, and we are also actively searching for the organizers, for the other organizers and managers of that New Year concert at Freedom City Hall. The facts gathered indicate that more than 500 revelers and concert goers were celebrating the end of year and the ushering in of the new year at Freedom City in Namasuba on the 31st and 1st. The celebrations were progressing well till that point where the master of ceremony recklessly made an announcement for the concert goers to move out and watch the fireworks display in the parking, and probably thereafter return to the concert. Now, the packed crowd became dangerous after the rush for fireworks from the hall through a narrow corridor to the only exit entry point led to a panic mode because the local security guards had locked all the other gates. About 4 other exits and entries. So as a result, several victims were trapped, others trampled upon through the narrow passage, which became a real bottleneck for some of the juveniles.
Legislators contend that event planners should think about their attendees' protection as well as the money they stand to make from the event in order to avoid future tragedies of this nature.
This is a wake-up call to the organizers, but also to security agencies that do manage some of these events. We have like a Nambole Stadium. We have prescribed numbers that are supposed to access the stadium at a time or when a particular event is happening. Parliament, we have the numbers that are defined to be accommodated at a particular time. So I think we should be strict when it comes to this.
The escape outlets must be there, must be properly reserved. In case of such miscellaneous, then there are such outlets that must be into operation to save people's lives from such undefined death. However, it was, I think, due to negligence of the organizers that they did not anticipate what would come out as a by the way. And also, I cannot condone people that maybe they came in a big number, because as they were coming, they could not predict what was inside.
Even in the middle of difficulties, the entertainment business may contribute to the enrichment of Ugandans. The sector is still extremely young, therefore there are plenty of undiscovered prospects. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's look at the cocoa bill. As Uganda currently produces 44.7 metric tons of cocoa, and it's the 5th largest exporter in Africa after Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, and Nigeria. As government plans to formulate the cocoa bill that will regulate the value chain in Uganda, processors and the farmers are positive towards this bill as it will help them get their products to the international markets. This and more with Naomi Mutumba.
Uganda currently produces 44.7 metric tons of cocoa and is Africa's 5th largest exporter, following Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, and Nigeria. Uganda made $105.8 million from cocoa in 2021, up from $64.8 million in 2018, a growth of 38.82%. However, despite this, Ugandan cocoa farmers and processors continue to face a number of difficulties, such as low bean quality brought on by a lack of training in post-harvest processing, which has an impact on the processors. The Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy has not been well received by Ugandans either.
Of course, the quality of the cocoa beans which we find, which the farmers supply or provide to us is so bad. And of course, when you get a poor quality product, the end product also will not be good. So we want to make sure that farmers are well trained in terms of post-harvest handling. They should be in position to pick the right cocoa pods, ferment it very well. It should be fermented according to the recommendations by NARO. Of course, the National Agricultural Research Organization has recommendations on how we should ferment your cocoa. And after fermenting it, you have also to make sure that you dry it very well to attain a moisture content of around 8%. But most of our farmers, they sell their cocoa at a moisture of around 12%. Moisture content of 12%, which is not a good thing.
We are facing the problem of Ugandans, them being obsessed with our imported products, e.g. Cadbury, rather than them supporting their own country. That's why we say Buy Uganda, Build Uganda.
Uganda Coffee Development Authority is working towards the formulation of the cocoa bill. Processors and farmers are positive towards this bill as it will help regulate the cocoa value chain.
Yeah, I think the cocoa bill is something which is very important for all of us, the actors within the cocoa value chain. Because when you look at cocoa, it is a value chain which is not regulated by government, and everybody does his own whatever he wants to do. But we think that if this bill is brought into action, the actors and the entire sector will be regulated, and this will result into making sure that our cocoa Ugandan cocoa, which is brought onto international market, is of high standard, and it meets the international standards, and therefore people will gain confidence into it, and we shall attract more buyers, and the country will get more money.
Earlier this month, Amber James Bolivar, a cocoa farmer, stated that one of the issues influencing quality and access to extension services is the lack of a legislative framework governing the cocoa value chain.
We should not be exporting raw beans. We should be adding value here. We could start with cocoa butter. We could start with cocoa powder for confectionaries, for cakes and all this, but not export beans. That way we are cheated very, very badly. We would earn more money if we added value to our cocoa. Ghana is already defying the European Union of exporting beans. They want value addition. They want to export chocolate. And I think they are getting a hearing, and they have started.
Cocoa has been an important traded commodity since development of milk chocolate in 1876. In the global market for beverages, it is positioned alongside coffee and tea. The market for cocoa as a whole is thought to be worth 60 billion euros annually, and demand is steadily growing as a result of the health benefits it offers. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And all right, with that particular report, we do head into a commercial break, but we do return with more Business Today reports, including the Coffee Court.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Mukwano?
Yes?
I need you to help me watch the kids. I'm going to pay school fees.
I've finished.
Excuse me.
Relax. Sit down, watch TV. I've already paid.
Chikole fullness, hakuna hassle, no stress. Whether night or day, tuli okay. Wangatuli ku flexi.
Don't hustle to pay bills or send money. Chikole for less. Ne flexi pay. Hold it.
Chikole for less with FlexiPay. Dial *291# to transact or download the FlexiPay app to get started. Stanbic Bank. It can be. Stanbic Bank is regulated by the Bank of Uganda, and customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, up to 10 million shillings.
Smart 24, driving business.
We'll be back from the break. Let's continue with more business today. Now we look at an insight on the entertainment industry. The COVID-19 pandemic, which paralyzed all industries worldwide, forced the music industry in Uganda to close for nearly 2 years before having to reopen last year, early February. Now, numerous musicians went bankrupt because they were unable to perform since all public spaces were closed to prevent the spread of the virus, which just one of the many things that happened during that same period. Now, we take an insight into how the entertainment industry has been faring at large in this report.
The fact that there was no business in the art industry for 2 years presented difficulties for a large number of artists, and it was at the point that the majority of them realized they needed to work in web marketing and other businesses in addition to their primary ones in order to make a living. A few musicians were interviewed by Smart 24 TV and they discussed their experiences.
We were almost like walking zombies. Of course, our industry was completely locked down, and then, you know, as Uganda, we were not earning anything from our music, from the songs. You understand? That's what I've been talking about, that we should find a way of how we live off the song other than just the concerts. Now just imagine there were no concerts at all. And then, yeah, thanks, there were some innovations where some people were doing online streaming shows, but the culture had not yet picked up. Yeah, but I believe it should be the way forward. So it was hell. We were living in hell for the 2 years.
And focused on production and creating. I'm a creative in different aspects. I have a fashion line I'm starting up called Yes, I'm African. I was setting up a studio by then. I was setting up an audio studio by then, which is next to my home, so I had time to focus on it. I had music that I didn't have time to finish because, like I told you, I do different things all in the line of creativity. I have a production house that has web development. I'm a web developer, among different other things. So you find in these normal times, I get overwhelmed by these other works, and you find I cheat on my time, on the time that I give to music. So during the lockdown, I had time to concentrate so much onto my music. We're not making money, and it was tough. So as a web developer or something, I came up with a platform called Live TV Uganda. It's an online pay-per-view platform whereby I could host my event and make people pay to watch wherever they are. So it was embraced well by the few people who got to it. So far we've had like 3 events on it. And say that I lost in the lockdown. I embraced it and became creative. At the moment, I have something new.
Despite the fact that the music industry employs a number of people, there are still gaps that need to be closed so that musicians can profit greatly from their labor because they invest a lot of cash.
Where are the loopholes? I think the loopholes is in the system. The system, we're fighting with the piracy. I believe there is an audience ready to buy Ugandan music. They are willing to buy. But it's on us as an industry or as a people to clean up the system, to make sure that we put things right and then make sure that things right. Because this is an industry that employs so many young people. Look at me as single-handedly as Yo-Yo out there, but then I have a whole bunch of other guys that I do work with. It's almost a 10 member. Now those are only musicians. But we also have people beyond the stage, who the backstage, the people into marketing, the people into branding, the people in styling and what have you, running these errands here and there. It's a challenging industry that employs so many people, but then the returns are not in tandem with the income. But I do believe, first one, we have to find a way of how an artist at least can live on a song other than live on a performance or concert. You understand?
There have been multiple concerts since His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni formally opened the business early last year, leading Ugandans to imagine that the artists have made great fortunes. But Martin claims that the reality is much different.
Now that the industry is trying to pick up again, of course, it is still at a slow pace. As you realize, there have been so many concerts this year, but I don't think all of them have had to get back the return on investment. In fact, many have simply had PR representation where someone says yachikubye, but the whole issue about is that the guy is nursing wounds, has debts to pay. So, but slowly by slowly, I think we're optimistic the future is bright.
In March 2020, all bars, clubs, theatres and other nightlife establishments were forced to close, while some had their doors closed permanently. Certain pubs and other entertainment venues continued to operate in secret. Monica Nabionga, Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Well, human rights issues occasionally relate to the challenging and situations that normally happen amongst different citizens, and of course, when you fail to live up to your standards as well. Now, when it comes to the employee and employer connection, there is always a huge gap that leads to subpar performance. Now, these challenges center around the provision of sustainable sanitation facilities, internal displacement, development of adequate infrastructure, and the toughest being mistreatment. In the Coffee Court tonight, we discuss more about human rights and around the business community. We have more in this.
Well, it's a pleasure and thank you for joining us on the Coffee Court. This is where we ask the critical questions, most importantly, questions that matter. My name has not changed. I am Fred Makubia in this new year 2023. And first and foremost, we are beginning our discussion on matters regarding employer-employee relations. I understand that the 2019 Act is the one that we are following. So in case you have issues as an employer, as an employee, what is it and what must you be able to do? Joining me to discuss this is Counsel Lubega Jonathan. Of course, he's from Center for Foods and Adequate Living Rights. He's a practicing lawyer. Counsel, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure is mine, Fred.
When we talk about human rights, what exactly are we meaning?
We are meaning the rights that are protected and guaranteed under the law and the written instruments. And in Uganda, we are meaning the Constitution, which is the grand law, others call it the supreme law of the land, where all rights derive. And I could say particularly under Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, it is clear that the rights are clearly spelled out under that act. And these rights are non-derogable. They are inherent. They are meant to be got by a person by virtue of you being a person. So that's what we mean by having a discussion on human rights.
Isn't it unwise for us to depend on 1994 laws since situations and circumstances keep on changing? The problems we had those years are not the problems we're having now. So isn't it unwise for us to depend on the 1994?
Okay, it is. Sometimes you could say it is unwise, but circumstances just change grounds. Otherwise, these are the laws that are standard in nature, and they are, because the Constitution brings up the human rights that are from the international sphere. Because we have the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. We have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That is the grand law. It was made in 1948, whereby you could say it is too old to be protected or to be followed, but it is by you being a person. Yes, there are many changes that are coming up to just address a few of them. However, we see that if you are a person, Do you change for you not having the right to life?
So that's different.
Because
totally different.
Yeah, you don't change. So those are rights.
No, I don't change, but circumstances change. They keep changing.
Maybe the
from
way
where you're working from, and from anyway, many other aspects of life.
Yeah. Maybe what could change in my perspective is the way of addressing them, but their recognition could not change, because you can't say now that we are in the year 2023, you do not deserve the right to food, you do not deserve the right to carry out any economic activity, because these are socio-economic rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution, and they do not change. Maybe what changes is the way of them being addressed. And these are kind of changes that are being looked at by the Parliament. And from 1995 to 2019, that is a spell of 24 years, where we have not been having a law that enforces the human rights that is too direct and clear. Specifically, it is the Human Rights Enforcement Act 2019 that was endorsed by the President, and assented to by the President, and it is passed into law. Because now that is from 24 years to 2019, now we have a law that enforces these, and the way the rights are addressed is now changing. Because the fundamental change that is being addressed in this law is the addressing matters of human rights.
Which law are you talking about? The 1990 or the 2019 Human Rights Law?
I'm talking about the 2019 Human Rights Enforcement Act, and it is putting into effect the Article 50 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which provides for which enables persons to access justice in case their rights are violated, that are guaranteed under Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
And maybe before we get to what I am able to do, so what are these categories of human rights law that you lawyers on a daily basis keep talking about?
I will specifically highlight two categories. We shall bring out the civil and political rights. These are more into the public spaces, because many people understand rights violations in terms of political rights, and they every time think that yes, if there is this politician who is doing this thing, and if I am being beaten or ganged up by army men, then that is a violation of human rights. Yes, it is, but it is in the other category of the civil and political. But then there is that one that is being neglected, and many people do not think that, yes, it is my right to have such rights. These are the socio-economic rights. So these rights are guaranteed under the Constitution. I would spell out one provision, that is Article 50, which enables, Article 40, which enables me to carry out an employment in a very good and healthy environment. That is now under Article 39 of the Constitution. So if the Constitution guarantees my right to carry out an economic activity, so why shouldn't it be understood by the lay person that this law is coming up to categorically protect that person who is doing that economic activity? That's what we could talk about. And yes, those are the categories, and how they are protected, it is guaranteed under the Constitution.
Well, we start the year with issues that matter. I like what Martin Luther King Jr. says, that our lives begin to die the moment we become silent, especially about issues that matter. It's the reason our discussion stems on issues of human rights. If I have issues at my place of work and I feel justice is not on my side, so what exactly can I do to seek for justice? Not just to see justice, but also to feel that it has been promoted.
Justice to be done. You want it to be done.
It should be that way.
Yes, we have been facing a challenge of black and white, where laws are being talked about and written, but not being actuated in their sense. Let's take an example of that person, that woman working in chambers, the chamber boys and chamber women, who are employed in very big chambers by big employers. These people are seen not to be workers, are seen to be at the tail end of justice. But then, many people who utilize the labor disputes acts, courts and arbitration areas, they are the big people, the big companies, the corporate, because we are now facing a problem of corporate capture.
And so what are we facing?
Now, what I could say that now let us put ourselves together to understand that even that person who is regarded as a person who is at the tail end of justice. This is the chamber boy. That person has the right and an obligation to be paid.
And you want to say a chamber boy has equal rights to maybe a manager, top manager. You want to say a cleaner in a company equally has the same rights with a manager in any company. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, if it comes to enjoyment of rights.
Sure.
If it comes to enjoyment of rights, we are all equal. Because that
we can never be equal, counsel. Enjoyment of what your law suggests.
So let me just.
I know you've read a book entitled The Animal Farm.
Yes, yes, all those happen, but we shouldn't forget that they are these ground entitlements. You have a right to food, so meaning that me who is working in the chambers, who is actually the actual engine of the company, shouldn't get food because I am very low at the bottom end of the system. But then, does that guarantee you not to have health? Does that guarantee you not even to access to look for justice in courts of law?
Are you saying those are the cores that my boss should avail me on table?
Yeah, those are the cores, because the cores are granted for, actually are inherent, the right to life. Because if there are very many determinants of the right to life, as many discussions come by, we have the right to health, because it is a determinant of the right to life. We have the right to food. It is a determinant of the right to life. So doesn't guarantee, so meaning that that person at the tail end of discussions of the system, it doesn't put you at the state of you not being able to access justice because you are very low. You being a person of that nature, you deserve rights, you deserve food, you deserve equal payments. I mean, you deserve payments, regardless of what, because you have a contract. You deserve having a clean and healthy environment.
But on ground, that's not exactly what is happening. We keep talking about law. This is what the law says. You've seen companies in the previous year that lays off workers without no justifiable reason.
Yeah, such circumstances happen, but then we need to address them. We need to address them, and the only way that can be addressed is let us embrace the enabling environment. Yes, the government will say that, yeah, they have laid you out, you don't have a contract, but yes, it doesn't.
No, the government has put, the rules are clear. The 2019 we are talking about is a very clear law, very good law.
But how many people know it?
It's exactly what I am asking.
Yeah, so few people think that they can not access justice because of it being expensive, because the person in the community there working for a big company is terrified because he thinks that company, thinks that he can't even access a lawyer to get services. No, this is a law which is clear that specifically at Section 5, it is an enabler of that person to access justice in case you want your rights have been violated, and the rights are economic rights. Because look here, you can go and with or without a lawyer. This is a law.
It's possible that I can stand before court.
Yes.
Without a lawyer. Where? Which court?
These are the magistrates' court. Because initially, under Article 50, it was only highlighting the High Court, where anyone can access justice in case of any human rights violations. However, looking back to the Human Rights Enforcement Act, which is clear saying that any person, under Section 5, any person can access a magistrate's court with or orally or in writing.
But Council, you're talking about a peasant. A peasant even don't understand what you're saying.
Yes, this is what the law is curing. A peasant who can't write. A peasant.
That's a peasant I am addressing on this coffee court.
Oh yes, a peasant who can't write. A peasant who can't read. A peasant who can't speak English as the grand language as the language of court. But then this is the law that is an enabler to that peasant. So we need to put avenues to enable the peasant access court in case of any violations of any sort to work, because if your rights to work are violated, if you've been dismissed, for example, with very many injustices being listed down, and you know that the person is sending you off work because he's claiming that you don't have a contract. He's claiming that you have not been an employee here. But look here, you've been working for a person for close to 10 months. Then you've been entering into payments on a monthly basis. You are treated as an employee.
Are you saying that's good enough for me?
It's evidence, because one beautiful thing with this law is that it goes away with the very many technicalities.
But you believe in facts, so which evidence do I have?
Technicalities have been reduced to that extent, whereby even if it's not this law, the Human Rights Enforcement Act, proof of you being an employee has been reduced to how has been the treatment that you've been getting from the employer been. For example, you have been paying, you have been on a payment schedule of a monthly basis. How would you want me to pursue myself? How would I perceive myself? And you've been paying NSSF for me. How would you want me to perceive myself? So those are the circumstances, but doesn't guarantee that you a peasant, who is taking yourself to be at the bottom end, not to keep evidence.
So you're saying a peasant can find justice, an employee who is a peasant can actually find justice. In your courts, I call them your court because you own them.
Yeah, we do not own them. Courts should be, courts are for the people, and they are for the public good. That is a public space. Anyone can access court. That is why even
Not anyone.
That's what the law is about.
Okay.
Under Section 5, where it says that anyone can access court and address their matters to the magistrate, either in writing, because I can just come to you and say, Fred, your magistrate. I can just come and say, I've been chased away from my work. It is where I've been driving sustenance. My kids are not going to school. I've been on work for over 10 years. I mean, yeah, people are there. 10 years, they are demanding close to 5 months, no pay, and yet now that's when the dismissal comes up. So you see that circumstance leaves the person at the verge of suffering injustice, even the other people that are behind her, children.
Okay, Council, your last words on this coffee court, but your inspiration word as the year 2023 has just started on matters regarding employer-employee.
My last word is that we should then put into consideration the rights of everyone. We shouldn't discriminate against everyone. I mean, we shouldn't discriminate against or on grounds of sex, economic standing, creed or anything, but we should be treated as equal as possible in regards to enjoyment of rights. And then we should also put into effect of creating awareness among the communities and also the justice seekers. These are people who actually have to know these laws better than us, because us, we shall need your money. But then let the government, which put into effect this law, the Human Rights Enforcement Law, let it be known by the people. These are people who are working in those big corporations who can easily access justice. There is a lot of injustice happening down at those community level. But the way we can safeguard that is through putting into a guarantee of protection and a measurement of them accessing justice, specifically women.
Council, thank you for joining us and thank you for sparing time to speak to us. The year 2023 has begun on a note that regards issues of human rights, employer-employee relations. Martin Luther King Jr. says, I want to repeat that the classical, our lives begin to die the moment we become silent, especially on issues that matter. And that is it from the Coffee Court. My name is Fred Makubia.
Today, on the 2nd of January 2023, I've been Jerome Boltzuka with Winnie Wins and Akauti on sign language, and we've been coming to you live from Block 42 Nile Avenue. Have yourselves a blessed week, the very 1st of January 2023, and of course, more days to come. May God bless your night. Good evening.